Welcome to the Amazing Authorities Podcast, where game changers, visionaries, and category leaders share how they built their brands, platforms, and global influence. Your host is Mitch Carson, international speaker, media strategist, and creator of the Instant Authority System. If you're ready to learn from those who've done it and want to become the go-to expert in your space, you're in the right place.
Dr. Bryan Kwok is in the house. He's our amazing authority on the Amazing Authority podcast. Welcome to the show, Bryan, because you insisted on calling you Bryan. We got the doctor part out of the way.
That's right, Mitch. You know, my dad was Dr. Lay, so I get to decide my own fate.
Okay. Well, because when people call me sir, this is a funny little story. When people call me sir, I don't like that because I'm getting older and I'm not accepting it very well. So I look around and I do one of these. I say, sir, I don't think my dad's in the room. And
Nice.
I'm not knighted by the Queen of England. I happen to be American.
Nice. I like that.
So that's why I get that, that sir stuff off. But was your dad a medical doctor?
He was a medical doctor. He was a real doctor. I'm just, food doctor, right?
Well, you're not just
on his heels.
You're with information, you're piled high and deep.
Oh, definitely deep, definitely high for sure.
How did you get into being a food scientist? I mean, do you just have a big appetite or was there more to it?
Oh, it's so funny. I actually didn't care that much about food growing up. I was like a hardcore chemist. I was like, everything's molecules, everything's chemistry. And then at some point, I was pretty burnt out. So when I graduated college, I decided to walk across the country. So I walked from California to Louisiana, over 2,000 miles. And during that time, I was just cramming like 4,000 calories every day, just like anything I could get a hold of. And I was like, oh, that makes me feel good. I can walk longer on that. And then stuff was like, ooh, that was terrible. Like I can only walk 5-10 miles best. Usually I can do 25. And so food started to become really important to me. And I was like, there's probably something to that. But it wasn't a straight line. I went back to get my PhD in chemistry, and I got super bored because of my account of now known ADHD. So I stopped going to class and I started going to the design school. And in one of the design school classes was they talked about food. And I was like, oh, that's more interesting. This is way cooler than like making drugs or pharmaceuticals or, petrochemicals. So I took to it and eventually I dropped out. And then I just restarted my journey. I discovered food science. I was like, maybe I should do my PhD in this. So I did. I actually went back.
Where'd you go for your PhD in food science? Because you don't hear about that too often in the States.
No, you don't. There's like maybe like 20, 30 universities. I went to University of Wisconsin in Madison. So they got a nice program there. There was also one in Cornell and UC Davis. But yeah, they don't come up very often. It's specifically state schools minus Cornell for whatever weird reason. And it has to be land grant universities. So it's a weird like regulatory thing where they have to have a food science program. So it's quirky.
And people that would hire you for having a food science, because most people, I hadn't heard of it until, like I mentioned to you before the interview today, I had an ex-relationship. She had a degree in food science. She got hired by a large gastro division of Dusatani Corporation here, and was division. So that was why I learned about it. But prior to that, I'd never heard about it in the States.
Right. I hadn't heard about it. The only reason I knew about it was because I read it in a research journal, like if you can believe that. And yeah, I mean, I got really lucky. I mean, there's definitely kids out there who like know what food science is, but barely like, and there's actually only 12,000 of us, like professional food scientists in the United States. So,
PhD
even in the
level?
department,
You mean PhD?
no, just any like bachelor's,
Oh,
masters,
wow.
like there's even fewer of us that have PhDs, very few. Like we like we kind of collect to each other, right? We're like, oh, there's only like 400 of us, maybe, right? Or 1,000 of us. But yeah, it's a really interesting field. I think it really matches a lot of the way I think, which
Bryan, you were
is,
breaking up a little bit.
oh, I'm breaking up. Oh no. Are we doing okay?
Now, go ahead. Do that again.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was just saying like it really matches my skills because in the way I see the world is because I've got a lot of I like to dabble in a lot of different things. Like I wouldn't say I'm an expert at any particular thing. I just have a lot of information about the most random stuff, and somehow I managed to make a good living off of that.
So what do you do? So how does someone hire you as a food scientist? Do you go into work for one of the large food uh, producing corporations? Like, would you go and work for a Johnson and Johnson or one of the, I mean, or I don't even know who they are in America. Heinz ketchup? Would
Right,
they hire
right,
you?
right, right. No, I mean that's where a lot of my friends would go. But for me as a consultant, I actually end up helping a lot of like small or medium-sized businesses who are looking to either get into the food industry. Like it might just be an entrepreneur who's starting something up and wants like a product designed, or it's a established company that maybe doesn't have the money to build out an entire R&D team, so they hire me and I get to be their R&D team for 3 to 6 months. So it's nice because the projects are short, and I can do different things in between. I'm not really the type of person that's looking to make the max amount of money, honestly. If I was, I would just, hunker down and work for a company. But really for me, it's about finding projects that work for me, be able to pay my bills, and doing really cool stuff. That's my bottom line.
Well, do you consult for restaurant groups coming up with menus and then putting your stamp on it? Is that also a sector of your business?
Yeah, I've definitely done it. I've done it, for really interesting restaurant concepts. Like a lot of them are going to be more like using like artificial intelligence or robots even, right? Like so they need to make sure like the machinery built like creates the menu perfectly. So I find that really fascinating. It's like the future right now. And really just honing in on like how do we replicate this flavor across like 10 locations, right? Like how do you do that when there's a lot of different variables involved? And we get into the chemistry, we get into the biology, and figure out a lot of the food safety involved too.
I want to go back to what you just said a little bit ago, and that it was astounding. We glossed over it quickly. You walked from LA to Louisiana. What prompted
I
that? Just woke up one day and said, I'm going to walk to Louisiana and eat some good jambalaya? What
Yeah, I was desperate for jambalaya, right? I was looking for
you wanted to
some
go to the
crab
source.
cakes.
You wanted to go to the
Right, right,
source.
exactly. Right, right. No, what happened was my dad passed in 2010. That was a year before I was about to graduate. And I just took that pretty hard because I didn't have a great relationship with him.
Hmm.
But at the end of the day, I think he was a lot of the brains behind the operation that is my family, right? Like I always looked up to him as, just super smart, super intellectual, like could do anything. Like he'd do woodworking, he was a violinist, like he loved art, and he did photography. So
Ultra
he was a bit of a yeah, exactly, exactly. Just able to like get his hands and head into a lot of different things. And so when he passed, I was just like, I was a little shocked, like he was 62 and
that's young.
it's young, right? Like he died of a stroke and it's not like he was in bad health. It's just,
And he
circumstance.
was
And
a
I was like,
physician.
yeah, he was of all things, right? He was a doctor. Like he was You should, you know, if all the people you could have seen it coming, but you never do, right? Like it doesn't matter how much you know. And
Mm.
that struck me, right? That it gave me some insight. It's like it doesn't matter how much you know, it doesn't matter what you do. Sometimes life just, you know, throws you a curveball. So I was like, you know what? I've always wanted to do this. And I don't honestly, I don't know where I got the idea. I think someone gave me a book about it. And I was like, you know what? I only got one life. Um, and you know, my dad was paralyzed on half of his body, so he never got to do a lot of traveling while I was growing up. He used to do a lot of it. And he came to the United States in Louisiana. That was the first New Orleans. That was the first spot that he landed from Vietnam. And so my whole shtick was like, I'm doing this in honor of my father, right? Like, and for myself, like, I
Was
wanted
he
to
a
get fit.
survivor of the war? Did he
Yeah,
immigrate because of the
yeah,
war? Okay.
yeah. He was a physician on the southern Vietnamese side,
Uh-huh.
and he got sent to the, you know, the work camps after the war ended. So that was always a real. He never talked about it, you know, like
I'm sure it
no one
wasn't
talks about it.
pleasant memory. And he was a doctor, though. They
No.
probably utilized him, didn't they?
I think they did. I think they definitely tried to indoctrinate him, that's for sure.
Right.
But I'm sure he saw a lot of people die. I mean, that's probably the hardest thing. He probably saw a lot of people just he probably could have saved, but you know, through bureaucracy or you know, just incompetence or not having the materials or resources, just you
Well,
know,
that was
end of that.
also it might be a little bit somewhat once removed because you were born, you're a native of the US. Uh,
Hmm.
the trauma of that war, it was a stupid war. Anyway, I don't mean to get so political.
Hmm.
It was one of those
No,
wars.
no, no. I think we all agree.
Yeah, World War
We all
II was
agree.
necessary for us to go and send the
Right.
troops. That was a necessary war.
Absolutely.
Vietnam made no sense, still makes no sense.
Hmm.
And I think it's
Hmm.
also the only war in the American history that we lost.
Yeah, that's right. It's really interesting to consider like, you know, the ramifications of that and, you know, what ended to happen to the Vietnamese people afterwards, you know. And of course, I'm there. I'm here in the US because of that. So it's a mixed bag. You know, we all kind of have to wonder like what life would have been like with different decisions. But you know.
Well, it's true. So you walked in honor of your father from LA to and that's so that was that cathartic for you? Did that
Oh
create,
yeah.
tell
Yeah,
us
you
about
know what
that?
it did? Yeah, it was so the one rule I had for myself is I wouldn't bring money. And so my whole thing was I was gonna rely on I would only walk so long as I could if the world supported me. And this is the weird thing. This is the weird thing. I never asked for money, but people would stop like either on the street or they stop their car or you know I'd meet them in the city and they would just hand me money. Never, not a word, never asked. And then, or they would, you know, give me food or water, or they would, you know, invite me in their homes for a meal, have dinner, sleep over. It was just like, it gave me this like overwhelming idea of, wow, humans are genuinely good. Like, full stop.
I would
Americans
tend
are
to
generally
agree.
good.
I tend to agree.
Yeah.
People say, is man good or evil? I would say he's largely good
Hmm.
until you start dangling some power elements and there
Oh, yeah.
that sex gets involved or love and all
Yeah.
emotions that can make us ugly or can cause the ugly
Yes.
side of man. But for most, so were you wearing a Buddhist garb when you were walking?
No,
Okay.
no, that's the funny. I was just wearing regular clothes. I mean, at some point they started getting tattered, right? So,
Right.
but no, I was just like a normal looking guy. You know, just I think I don't know if people could tell I was on a mission, right? Like
You wear a
I
hat?
wasn't clearly just hand. Yeah, I just wore like a
Did
little
you wear
cap, you know.
okay.
Yeah, nothing special.
How about weather? When did you do this? What month of the year or months? I mean, how long did it take you? I mean, I don't hear
Yeah,
that.
so I started. No, no. I started in January. So it's LA, right? So no
Right.
problem there. But I ended in July, so it took me 6 months. And I went through, most of it was desert, but sometimes I would go through the mountains, and at some point it did snow. It snowed for 6 days in New Mexico, of all
Wow. You're
places.
walking through
Yeah.
that. Did you stay in hotels? I mean, or anything? I mean, what?
I mean, if people gave me, it's like there are sometimes people who would book motels for me. But sometimes I just stay with people, and like, or under bridges or just on the side of the road. Yeah.
Gonna say, like, where did you go to sleep? You had to sleep at some point.
Yeah.
Did you prepare your sneakers? Did you prepare clothing? I mean, all these things. Did you pack a toothbrush? What did you do? It looks like your teeth are real. I mean, it's
Yeah, yeah,
not.
they yeah, no, I mean, in the beginning it was pretty light going, but at some point I just sort of picked up things as I went along. And you realize a lot of the stuff you don't need. Like if you want to just live, there's very few things you really need. And honestly, the funny thing with the shoes is that I did buy a pair of hiking shoes that were destroyed in the first 2 weeks, 3 weeks. So I bought a pair of New Balances.
Okay.
And then that was the only pair of shoes I ever wore. It was like on sale, right? It was super cheap because I didn't have a lot of money because there was
Uh-huh.
just people giving me money. But I walked 5 months on those. Like I was like, so then I just started always buying New Balance shoes. And it's a missed opportunity. I think a lot of people are like, you should have gotten sponsored by New
Well,
Balance. But
that's what I
I
was
didn't
just
know at the
thinking.
time.
I was just thinking New Balance would have been a great sponsor. They would have given you new
You're
shoes
right.
every major,
Absolutely.
but you didn't.
Absolutely.
Well, and what did you learn from that? Because most people don't do that. I've got a friend, Croy Sather's his name. He ran across America. He was one of
Oh,
them.
no kidding.
Yeah,
Dang.
he ran
Okay,
across
that's
America.
crazy.
He ran 30 to 40 miles a day consistently. So he did that. What
Wow.
did you walk per day? I'm sure you're a math guy.
20, yeah, 20 to 25 miles, but I definitely took my breaks. I definitely maybe every 3 days I laid down, I did some reading. I didn't push myself. I think a lot of times I listened to my body. That was another new thing that I didn't do very often before then, but became a really cool new way of thinking and approaching the world was like, yeah, like if my body says stop, I'll stop.
Okay. And were you depressed during this time at all? Did you feel lonely, anxious? What was going on emotionally? Because this is an unusual.
This is the happiest time of hands down. Like I'm free. I don't have responsibilities. People are really cool. I'm doing something I love. I'm really fit. Oh my gosh. I wow, I look back and I'm like, how the hell did I do that? Like I'm 36 now, so I'm not that much older, but like there's a decline in my physicality. So yeah, and then I was meeting women. What
Disgusting.
can I
Tell me
say?
more. Tell me more.
It was interesting. I think, when you're no matter what shape you're in, I think if you have purpose, and you're like your focus isn't like, yeah, I'm gonna do this because I'm cool or I'm doing this because, so that, people can talk about me, but it's genuinely like this matters to me. I think it seems to be a very attractive thing. And I've learned over the years, like, oh, okay. Like that's what's interesting to the fairer sex, right? Like I need to cultivate more of that. So there's some fun interactions along the way, and I was really grateful that yeah, it was never something that occurred to me, like,
Just
oh,
happened.
that could happen. It
Yeah.
just happened. It just happened. Yeah,
Oh,
good
that's
stuff.
uh that's one of the joys of life is having attractions and moving forward. It reminds us that we're human. And
Absolutely.
well, I'm going to bring up an uncomfortable topic for most. And I believe most of us have experienced varying levels of depression or blue moments. It's called feeling blue. I don't
Absolutely.
know why they use the blue color to relate to I'm feeling a bit blue. But you've had to deal with dark times of depression.
hmm
And what led
Absolutely.
you to that and how did you recover from it?
Yeah, so it's funny, like immediately after I did my walk, I came back and then I was supposed to restart this program, this PhD program at Stanford for chemistry.
Hmm.
And honestly, what had happened was I realized it wasn't for me. It really wasn't because I really felt out of place. I think, honestly, with the walk, I was in a very different space where like I was free and open and I was like, but that's really different from like this sort of competitive atmosphere where like, you can't be that open and you have to like really put your head down. And you know, it just things didn't make any sense for me at that time. So I started like waking up with panic attacks. I was anxious. I was having a hard time like thinking. And it got really bad at one point where, I really wasn't sure if I wanted to continue living. Like that was I know it was a really scary moment. And I realized like, oh, there's something wrong. And so I actually checked myself in to a psychiatric hospital and I stayed there for three weeks. Um, and that was like hitting rock bottom because then I was like, I acknowledged like, ooh, I gotta stop this. Whatever this train I'm on, I gotta stop. So I dropped out. There's actually two graduate programs. There's one in a PhD and then a master's in another department. I was doing two graduate programs at the same time. Probably not the best strategy, but
Stress,
so I
man.
ended that. Stress, man, like it's the killer. It's the number one killer, no doubt. But yeah, and then, but when I look back, I'm really grateful because it was the worst thing that had ever happened to me, and I was alive. And I took that moment and I said, everything else is a blessing no matter what I do. I don't like if I move forward from here and I'm still alive, I'm grateful. So it didn't matter what my goals were. Um, if I could accomplish them, awesome. If I couldn't, no worries. I'll just pivot. I'll find another way. And no matter how much things sucked or were caused me pain, it was never going to be as bad as that. And so I moved forward from that with a whole different perspective. And I was still depressed. I mean, I was still, I had really, really tough moments, but every year just got better and better and better. And then now I'm here and I look back and I'm like, I like if I'd stayed in that path, there's no way I would have accomplished what I accomplished today. Like all the, starting my consulting company, writing a book, being part of a documentary. I had to really change my mindset in order to get to this point, which was being really open to whatever life threw at me, good or bad. Because it turns out, even in the bad parts, like that allowed me to like make a left turn that led to a good part. And I'm like, wow, what a journey. Like, what an amazing experience. And so, you know, over time, like it became this point where I was like, I'm really happy. And I never thought I'd ever be this happy again, like almost to the level as that walk. And so it's almost like looking back and being like, I know what it feels like to be alive and to be, you know, be be in the presence of amazing people in this world and like doing the thing that I love.
Well, let me ask this, this is a personal question myself because I reached my bottom in my life.
Yeah.
Both my parents died when I was 22, and I went on a I
Fuck.
yeah, so I
Oh,
was
so you know how
yeah,
that is.
yeah, oh man, yeah, I was at USC doing my undergrad work. finished,
Yeah.
and then bang, bang, 5 weeks apart. Dad, mom, boom, boom.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
And I was an only child, so it was a bit of a shocker. The whole family just disassembled
Yeah.
in that one quick shot. I went on a downward spiral, man, of drinking, drugging, all that. I'm quite open about it because I get to help people today who have had those experiences. That's the beauty of being older and you go through these experiences because I do believe man is basically good and we're here to help and pay it forward when possible.
Mm-hmm.
I had to hit a rock bottom before I could go up and rise. You know, and then there's the whole forth. Is that similar to what happened? Jumped up again
So I lost
and
you a
be
little
able,
bit.
you
There
were
was a
able to
little.
achieve like you. Okay. Yeah, there was a fade. Did you have to reach a rock jump up out of that to get out of that rock bottom?
I would say so. Like, I mean, I had to like sort of reach out and like pull myself together in a way that like it was definitely a level of strength that I never thought I had. Where it was like, dude, like this is it. Like you either move forward, get yourself together. And it wasn't like so hard like that, but it was definitely like find a way, no matter what. And yeah, make that leap, right? Like that leap of faith to get to that stage where you can just get out of the muck, right? And it's not, and it's certainly not like one and done kind of situation because you always, you kind of like spiral back down and you kind of go back up, and there's good and bad days. But I think like the dedication, yeah, there's definitely like up and down, but like to still like have that voice in your head, like I can do it, like even with the ups and downs.
Yeah, eventually. It's not straight. I would say also in my
Mm-hmm.
life as well, 2 steps up, 1 step down, sometimes 3 steps down, and then you
Mm-hmm.
got to, as long as that positive slope is in play,
Positive
as long
slope.
as the,
Yep. Just
yeah, yeah, still, if it's still in play, that's what you got to think of. It's like, well, can I sustain this? And you've got to know that that outcome is there. I mean, I would say a lot of pain went into writing my first book. That took a lot.
yeah.
Now you're an author
Yeah.
yourself. Tell us about the book you wrote.
Yeah, so it's 150 food science questions answered. It's funny because I actually it was happenstance. The publisher came to me because they were reading one of my blog posts that I'd written while I was in graduate school, and they were like, "Hey, you're a pretty decent writer. Like, why don't you write our book? But here's like a couple thousand, like right, like in the end, I couldn't really negotiate much because I was a graduate student, but it was good. It was good, beer money. But
Yeah.
in any case, they gave me 75 questions. And they were like, Phil, give us another 75 questions. And so I spent a lot of time on Reddit, like just like grabbing whatever I could
Oh,
find.
nice. Nice.
And yeah, yeah. And then I answered all those questions. And it was funny because, I found it to be therapeutic because I was actually writing my dissertation at the same time. This was the last year of my PhD program. And
Mhm.
so I was like, this really sucks and it's hard and awful. So I was already doing something really hard and awful. And I was like, well, this is like less bad and awful. So I was really just doing two projects at the same time.
Tell us the title of the book again.
150 food science questions answered.
Thanks for tuning in to the Amazing Authorities Podcast. If today's episode inspired you, take a moment to subscribe, rate, and leave a review. It helps more experts like you rise to the top. For behind-the-scenes access and free resources to boost your authority, head to MitchCarson.com. Until next time, stay amazing.